think you realize quite a few Germans in World War II would fall asleep on their couches while the Gestapo were rounding up Jews and herding them into trains. They'd nap. Whenever I see the alternative media, most of them sandbaggers, but some of them really very sincere people, I'm reminded of how important illusions are. What keeps someone like Owen Jones in outrage and keeps him working to record the truth and try to persuade people about what's happening in Gaza is the illusion that anybody cares about anybody but themselves. It's a necessary illusion. I remember when Martha Gellhorn wrote to me. She wrote to me and said, "Are you saying that you think," she was very brave and direct. She addressed the issue. Somebody deliberately released AIDS made as a weapon. You can't mean that, she said. See, it was necessary for her to believe. She had even seen the liberation of Dachau. And she probably knew that the way she threw herself in my path, the suspects were the Israelis. One of the things we see about Seattle is what cattle they are when it comes to solidarity. You know, a woman was arrested who was a Seattle activist for a widespread nationwide fentanyl ring. Well, that's very typical of Seattle activism. There was a whole set of people who said, that their motto was "From God Part 2 by U2. I don't believe in the Uzi, it just went off in my hand. In other words, they don't believe that John Lennon pulled a Houdini, so if Yoko Ono supports the people who killed him, just hand. I don't believe that John Lennon pulled a Houdini, so if the Beatles are behind the people who launched the AIDS attack, tough luck. And they called it building momentum. They made this thing about the tulip, and they had this thing come up on my lip when they brought me to a barbecue. And then they released COVID-19. And the tulip from prior to COVID-19 has COVID-19 written on it. And it's part of the sociopathic network that Toon put together with the St. Louis Post-Dispatch and the help of Seattle. So I don't believe that John Lennon pulled a Houdini, have a little COVID scarecrow. They call it building momentum. So, and they can't be held responsible because of the necessary illusion that if they did believe it, they would do something. That's an absurdity. Because what it turns out is not only did they not disbelieve it, they were behind it all along. Because Lennon did pull a Houdini. See? And that's what makes it their favorite title for the whole expedition. It's an exercise in futility. You know, they have Eastwood talking to the dudes on the USS Liberty. Oh, better take that hat off. The Vietnam veterans will get you in the back well. Because for some reason they're ganging up and humiliating the San Jacinto. I don't really, it's something to do with Clint Eastwood deal for getting East women from the East mourning wood from the Ku Klux Klan. But one of the things you see in Seattle is a cement writing from when Mandela was still in prison that says Noah. You see, the Noah's Ark. They had Bibi Netanyahu who ordering the murder of the peacemaker of Hamas in Iran from the UN headquarters. Well, Maduro Goto was in on the Two Virgins Pussy Ball campaign. She was a UN peace ambassador that was clocked to the AIDS attack. You know, Katano made the first Japanese movie in Los Angeles, ever filmed in America, called Brother, and timing with Obama getting the president. And it's about a black gangster who gets a pot of dough at the end of the film. So, and Maduro Goto was a signifier of a quid pro quo. In Diva, it's a black woman with my birthday on her poster. But it's basically the idea of the counterfederacy, the confederacy, taking symbolic good kinds and advocating for them. And the postal union was full of follow the letter stuff. As Geiger said, would you settle for a lesser violent bait and switch? Because the military goes on despite the enormity going on, and they have their pranks. Yeah, they have their pranks. And so they murdered Cersei, right? And, followed the letter that I wrote to the Kennedys and delivered it with two more. And the NAACP and Seattle Green Party, the queers themselves, sided with Zell, who was an advocate for Joseph Goebbels and was proven to have prior knowledge of AIDS. Why would Seattle gays side with the people who started AIDS? Because of Maduro Goto. She's the status symbol. And she doesn't love the dude who told on Lenin Houdini. So they have the sword of Damocles hanging over your head. And two virgins which always whack whack to the AIDS attack. And we know that the Black Panthers and National Alliance of Postal Union were formulated by the same basic picket from the work of Ralph Proctor. And we find the two virgins postal system in place in films documenting the history of Japanese postal workers in cinema. So we basically get the idea there. And Iran was, of course, in on the AIDS attack. Pope Karl went and met with them and said, we're going to martyrdom freak out. We're going to have a martyrdom freak out in the Sin War. And Iran had Siamese relations with the Burmese of Aung San Suu Kyi, who is a symbol of the diva sect, And she married an English, and, she's a symbol of social responsibility is the antithesis of porno, and there's all of these Rohingya. So rather than, we don't want to be changed, Bowie said, rather than become responsible people about understanding and addressing poverty, we're going to build shooter weapons and make sure that the tokens, the good kind, get the symbols of life. And they were jumping up and down, banging their spears in the African National Congress. Hoot, hoot. When Shulman and Parvin of Iran got Mandela books, Caliban books,